Watercolour isn't about perfection, it's about curiosity. It's about allowing the water to teach us. Some days it's just messy, and some days it's magical, a bit like life. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: if you stay with it, watercolour becomes not just another medium, it becomes the most helpful creative companion. And to me, that's the greatest hack of all.
Watercolour has a reputation for being one of the hardest mediums to master, but here's the truth no one told me. It's not about controlling the water, it's about letting it surprise you. And some of my best paintings have come about from so-called mistakes. So today I'm sharing the watercolour secrets, hacks and truths I wish I'd known when I first started. This is why I absolutely love watercolour. It's less about control and more about discovering what happens when we finally let go.
If you've ever felt frustrated with watercolour, you're definitely not alone. If you just feel that all your paintings are just full of mistakes, I really feel you. But hours and hours of sometimes blood, sweat and tears, yes, at this messy art table has taught me more things than any art class or any art school could ever do. It's where I've made my greatest discoveries, my most surprising lessons and happy accidents. So now I have this toolbox full of watercolour tips and tricks and hacks, all the things I wish I had known before. You know how it goes. And today I want to share them all with you so that you've got that in your repertoire as well. In a second I'm going to take you to my messy but very happy art desk, and I'm going to show you the first hack, which is actually all about those pieces of art that we really don't like, the ones that we label mistakes. And actually I have a whole drawer full of them. Let me grab a pile now just to prove it. This is just the first pile as well that I have just grabbed from over there, so I've no idea what's in this pile either. Literally, it could be anything. I could be cringing in my boots now. Oh, that's an interesting one. Piles and piles of them. Things I've never finished, things I have given up on, things I didn't know how to finish, and things I just didn't fall in love with straight away, and so I lost patience with. That's just a small example of what I've got. And I know you've got them too. But can we turn these around into gold mines for future experiments, fearless playgrounds, and even second chances into turning them, into something truly magical? So without further ado, I will take you to my table, but please don't be put off by, the pickle that's down there. I'm a bit messy, what can I say?
First, keep the paintings that you don't like. Don't throw them away. Come back weeks later with fresh eyes, paint over, experiment, play. Those failures hold your biggest lessons and often your most magical discoveries. So keep all that work that you are not proud of. Hide it away in a drawer if you must, if you don't want it around you, but give yourself the opportunity to return later and work into things. Experiment with them. You can really explore and push the boundaries with pieces that you're just not feeling precious about. And that will be where your greatest learning is. This next one is watercolour's biggest gift. The nature of water and watercolour is not meant to be controlled. The greatest effects in my experience always happen organically on their own when you allow the watercolour to do its own thing. Being too controlling, therefore, does not allow for the happy little accidents, as Bob Ross would say, and in watercolour those are everything. So if you paint tight with a need to control with this medium, you will never achieve the beautiful abstract effects and luminous quality it can create. The greatest gift, therefore, that watercolour can teach us is to loosen up. It is said that learning watercolour is the hardest medium in art to master, but no one tells us that it is perfectly acceptable and allowed to simply act upon our own curiosity. So no matter what your medium of choice might be, I thoroughly recommend that you explore watercolour. Play without a plan, and I guarantee you will find the magic within that practice alone.
Next hack is something I do in my portrait paintings. Let me just show you an example. I know I definitely used this method in this one, for this one's portrait, and I'm trying to get a really ethereal, very light glow, a very specific kind of lighting to the face, which I didn't use the technique in this one. I did use it for this one. So let me show you what I mean. And it's a really loose, interesting way to create blends and mixes without doing it on the palette, but actually mixing on the paper. So usually in watercolor, you know, you have your palette and you mix it all in the palette, different colors, different blends, different mixes. And I have, in fact, my enormous palette. Just trying to show you my palette setup here. So I've got a bigger palette there, and then couple of smaller ones as well. It's kind of in a pickle at the moment, but I kind of like that as well. But I'm going unconventional on here. I really love to just, break all the rules, if there are any rules, if that makes sense. So I'm going to start off with, say, a yellow. So imagine I'm doing a portrait, and I just want to do, it's kind of a little bit difficult to show you because I want to tip my page a little bit. I'm just going to grab a little cup and then prop up my book so that you can see. Yeah, so I've got maybe a 45-degree angle here, so I'm going to be using gravity, and then if I go lower I'm getting less of an angle. I'm just going to zoom you out slightly as well because I kind of want you to see really well what I'm doing. So for this method you need you need gravity. So you need to tip your work. You can either hold it and play with it, and then you've got more control if you want to flatten it, send it one way or another. It's a really lovely way of painting landscapes, ghosting techniques, that kind of thing. But I also use it in portrait painting, where I just put down some quite watery layers. I'm just going to add a little bit of water to that as well, and then you can literally drop colours in. So I'm just going to drop tiny bits. You know, if I want to warm that colour up, I'll put a bit of orange in, and I'm watching it all the time, but I want something really soft. And you see if I show you really close up, how it blends, and it's a really, really light, subtle, soft wash. Now I can go in with a little bit of red if I want to sort of make it a little bit deeper. Let's go across here as well, just so that we've got a little bit more room to play with. And then I might grab a little bit of the cerulean blue as well. All these colours are really, really watery at this point, so I might just drop a little bit of the blue in here. Got gravity, it's working with you. Add a little bit of water. And then where it's beading, these beads of water, that is going to help you move your paint, very light washes across the page. So you can see here now how I've got a graduation between the sort of blue to the yellow to the orange and then to the pink. And that's how I put the first layers down on some of my portraits. And it's so soft and so subtle. Let's add a little bit of green, if you wanted to green that up a little bit down here. And just watch what it does all the time. Grab a little bit of magenta as well, something a little bit more bold, and then you can just drop it in. Now once a part of it is dried, you don't really want to be re-dropping colours in, so you need to make sure that you work fairly quickly with this. But if it's still wet, you can keep mixing on the page to your heart's content. And it's really gonna give you that subtle, soft variation and glow that you can't get any other way. Just lift up that water that's beading there.
All my art tutorials and art journaling process videos, as well as lots of other fun, inspiring behind the scenes content, is available in our lovely Patreon community. You can click the link below in the description to check out what we get up to over there. And a big shout out to all my Patreons, past, present and future, for supporting me over there. It's a big circle of love. And hopefully the camera is picking that up. But I have found with watercolour, and I am no expert, I'm not a professional watercolour painter, I work mixed media. If you've been here a little while you will know that. But I have worked out that one of the most important lessons that I've learned about watercolour is to start light, super light, much lighter than you think you need to go, and then you can end up, I'm just going to come back to this little page again, with subtleties and softness and the glow and light that you cannot create if you put too much pigment down at first, if that makes sense. So go soft, go subtle, go slow. And that's really nice for a beginner as well, because you can layer up really, really slowly. So if you're really anxious and fearful and you don't know what you're doing and you're a bit, hesitant to put things down, then you can go really, really soft. And then once that's dry, you can make a slightly more opaque mix, paint over again, until you end up with, lots and lots of layering with some of the soft light areas coming through. And obviously one of the really important things about watercolor is retaining some of the white, and whether you do that with masking fluid, keeping the white paper because you're really careful. I've got some areas of white paper even on her face, you can see, and some areas of white paper on this page. Or you can go over, with an ink or a paint or a paint pen, something like that. So that is my next hack. And I have to say, it's one of my most important lessons that I have learned about watercolor. Yes, for me and the way I create and what I paint, which is basically figures, faces and fairies. Yes. Whenever we're making paintings, it doesn't matter what medium we're using, edges matter. And you've probably heard of working wet into wet or wet into dry, but I like to think about working damp into damp as well. This allows me some gentle control for soft edges. So if you want softer, more atmospheric details, like distant trees, fog, branches or abstract backgrounds, try painting damp into damp, not just wet into wet. And, top tip, a spritz bottle is your best friend here. So this is a Caddy watercolour sketchbook, and so it'll take a load of water, and I thought I've got a few of these actually, and I could use them to show you some of these hacks I've got for you. I've also got this Hanamooli watercolour sketchbook as well, so I might need a few different sheets while I'm waiting for things to dry, etc. Anyway, let's get into the hacks. So the first hack is to do with cling film effect. So let me just show you. So let's make a beautiful wash using some of the, let's go with the Prussian blue. Love me a bit of Prussian blue. We want a nice wet watery wash here. A bit more pigment. Lots of water. And then all we do is you crumple and allow to dry. So you crumple it all up, pat that down, and it'll create some really magical effects that you could use certainly for abstract effects, but also for mountains, landscapes, water. Might be quite useful sort of for some of my mermaidy paintings. Anyway, I'll put that to the side to dry. Okay, for this one I'm going to use the Hanamooli paper, which is a cold press, and I'm going to do something on this side and something slightly different on the other side, but they're both pretty similar, so that's why I'm doing them together. I think I'm going to wet my paper first. and it's going to give a little bit of a similar effect as the cling film, but I've basically got a plastic bag and some bubble wrap, and I'm going to show you the effects I can get with those. Let's change the colours up as well. So this is a beautiful cobalt teal. In case you're interested in the colours, just change them up a little bit so it's more visually interesting. And I've got lots of water, as you can see on the page. And then if I grab just a normal plastic bag, so this could be really good for florals, landscapes, abstract, botanicals, really lovely for journals as well as backgrounds. Let's add in a little bit more pigment. Have a different colour as well, and just go again, crunch that bag up. I just think that's perfect for abstract florals, floral backgrounds. You can work into that to give the details, and they make beautiful backgrounds for journaling pages as well. And you can leave that down, you could weight it down with something, so you could put, you know, something on the top and let it dry. On the other side, I'm going to use bubble wrap. So let's get some more paint down. Just using my bigger palette over here because then I can get more water into the mix and work nice and quickly. And I'm going to use another colour as well, and then maybe add a little bit of green into that as well. I mean, you can prep some pages like this for your journaling and it's absolutely brilliant, because then you haven't got that fear of facing the blank page when you come to the blank page and you want to do some writing. So for this one, I'm just going to put the bubble wrap down and I'm going to put some weight on it. I'm going to use my altered book and then something heavy on the top, which happens to be a big pot of gesso, a litre of gesso. So let's just check what's going on under this one. Yeah, loving that. So I think I'm going to put something heavy on this one as well. This time I'm going to put on another journal and a pot of varnish as well, and leave those to dry. This was a little trip I did, and I actually stayed in this little caravan in this little shepherd's hut. It was such a beautiful little trip, and I did actually make a video about this and painting this one. It's on YouTube, so I'll try and link it somewhere up there. Anyway, let's move on to a clean page and move on to the next hack. So for this one, I'm just going to grab my little square brush because it's easier to get into my pans. I'm just going to add in here some sap green. For this one, we need a hairdryer. So let me just go and grab my hairdryer. Here, you need lots of water for this one. I'm just going to You want to puddle the paint on your page and then blast it as fast as you can. This is great for trees, it branches out, fractals, great for abstracting or patterns, but it's really good for landscapes. Could be good for coral, undersea, that kind of thing. And then you can use a combination of effects as well in there. You know, you could put some cling film or some salt on this one. I think we talked about grinding salt and using alcohol in the last watercolour video, which I will try and link down in the description and also there if I remember. Yes, okay, so that was the other one. I always like to keep some old towels in the studio as well so that I can mop up things. I am quite a messy worker, so I like to, you know, be able to clean up really quickly. Let's just find a page in here. Again, another Caddy sketchbook. So for this one, you kind of need a waxy crayon. So Prismacolors are really good. These are sort of oil-based pencil crayons. And I've also got a, you know, standard wax crayon, probably the ones that you see in schools, and a candle. So this is for a wax resist technique. And this could be really, really good for secret messages, highlights, magical textures. Now we can use something called masking fluid, which is kind of like a rubber layer that dries and then you can paint over it and then peel it off later. So it's a similar thing. This is another way that you can kind of retain some of the highlights if you want to. But I really like the secret message aspect of this because of my joy of journaling. And it's also good for really magical textures as well. So let's just do a few marks then. We can do some writing. So I can write my name, or we can do shapes, perhaps some roses. Got quite a dirty candle actually. Perhaps I should have given it a little clean first. But yeah, some kind of swirly lines. See what kind of effects we get. And then if we create another wash, let's use a different colour this time. Let's grab some of this beautiful green, mix that with a little bit of the Prussian blue and see the effects we get. I love experimenting with different effects that you couldn't achieve if you were painting them. So it's a really quick way of getting some fancy effects. And this one gives a really interesting magical texture as well. So I love that one. Okay. And this one is to basically start with washes of colour, abstract effects, you know, just have fun and play with your colours, and it'll bring you that freedom feeling where you just really don't mind what's happening. You haven't got a drawing to ruin or anything like that. That is pretty much how I started some of my pages. So for example, these pages, no drawing underneath, just literally putting some colour down and seeing who emerged from the page. And so sometimes I do my paintings in this way as well, and it's a really nice way to get loose, stay loose and enjoy the process. We want it to bring us joy, don't we? Another little pro tip here is to have 2 or 3 containers of water. I've actually got 3, and so when this one's getting a little bit too full of pigment, I can clean that one first, and then I can kind of clean it more thoroughly so I'm not reactivating with different colours. That's when you can get yourself in a bit of a pickle and you can get mud. So I need a nice clean bucket as well. So I've actually got 3 buckets today because I thought, you know, I'm going to be changing colour quite a lot and it's going to get a little bit messy. So I wanted to come prepared. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow mixed with ultramarine blue. Gives a beautiful green. A little bit of yellow in it, a little bit more blue. Let's just keep that right on the edge. This is a beautiful colour. And then I'm going to, I think, grab a little bit of some different greens as well, just to maybe let that flow, using gravity to drop that in. Maybe adding a little bit of the teal in as well. And just really bring yourself a colour story that excites you. Something that you're going to want to, you know, make something out of. Or it might be the case that you leave it to dry and you just do your journaling on it. You know, it can be really, really simple. Let's go on this side with some nice, strong, pigmented cobalt blue. Adding in some yellow now. And this is about, you know, you don't start with a painting, you start with a colour mood. Because it's watercolour, you can use gravity and extra water just to let those colours merge into each other in whatever way they want to. Maybe do it the other way round. I'm really loving the way that that yellow is going into that cobalt, and I couldn't have painted that. Absolutely gorgeous, and that gives you a starting point. It gives you that colour experience where colour evokes the emotion, so you're going to feel like doing something on top of this. I mean, for me it's going to be mermaids probably, because I've been doing quite a few mermaids recently. Anyway, that's the next hack. Don't start with a painting, start with a colour mood. And you can do some quick swatches if you want to and build them into something. And sometimes, you know, we have no idea what to paint. So just laying down colours that match how we feel and then following the process, where the process and the page
tells us where to go next, tells us what to do next. It's a very intuitive process. This is the kind of art that's really good for our mental health. It keeps us in our joy, it keeps us in our right hemisphere. We're not thinking too much, we're not worrying, we don't have that fear. We're just seeing what emerges from the page, and we're doing it for the process, not the end results. It takes the pressure off, and we're busy creating. We're far too busy creating to be worrying. And you never know what is going to come out. And that's the exciting part for me. And while we're talking about being wild and free, which is serendipitously what this art journaling page is about, I will just say as well on here, this is why I do my art journaling pages, because I want to see what emerges from the page. And often I start with different layers.
This isn't just a mental health processing practice, it's a playground for colour, healing and discovery. And to be honest, without this I think I'd run out of ideas fast. So in real life, a practical example of this would be, I'm having quite a bad day and so I don't feel like doing a more serious fine art finished piece, and so I'll start an art journal page, and then maybe that turns into a bigger painting, or maybe it doesn't, and either way it doesn't matter. But it's a way into my creativity. And the way I think about it, that can only be a good thing.
But yeah, this is an example of my art journaling page, and you can just see how many layers I do.
Glazing is something that's really close to my heart, so using thin transparent layers to build luminous depth, but it only works if you protect the white of your paper and don't overlayer. Overbrushing also kills the light. I used to ruin pieces by piling on different complement colours until it all turned dull and muddy, so go slowly. Using thinner, more watery layers can really help, as can protecting the white of the paper. That's pure gold in watercolour, so protect that and cherish it.
And actually this hasn't got that many layers compared to what I sometimes do. But I love the layering process, and so with watercolour, obviously you've got to think about how it reactivates, and this depends on what kind of paper you're using as well. But if you've got something like an ink or an acrylic gouache or acrylic paint, then you can make sure that it's not going to react. And I've got inks on here, I have got acrylic paint on here, and obviously layered it all up. The writing I've made sure I've done with a permanent pen so that it doesn't budge and smush. And sometimes you want things to budge and smush and sometimes you don't, so just bear that in mind as well. And the colours I choose on that day always evoke a mood. But I also think that when I'm doing an art journaling page and not more of a fine art finished piece, that it's a really lovely thing because I don't feel restricted by, you know, just going pure watercolour. Now in my sketchbook, this watercolour sketchbook, which I'm actually coming to an end of pretty soon, so they'll probably do a sketchbook tour. I'll just show you one of the pages in it for now though. But I really wanted to go pure watercolour because I'm very mixed media, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely still love my mixed media, and I've just started dipping back into the mixed media as well, but I wanted to really hone my watercolour skills. So when that's your intention, then obviously do that. But I love the art journaling because it gets me out of that whole feeling of being restricted, and that I can only, you know, be a purist watercolorist. And it's not the case. You can use watercolor with all sorts of other media. Gouache is obviously a classic. Acrylic gouache, acrylic inks, acrylic paint. I also like to use pencil crayons. I absolutely love pencil crayons. And then you've got things like the Inktense pencils, you've got things like watercolor pencils. I've also got some just normal colored pencils here as well. And as another combination, I really love to use just graphite and watercolor as well. So mix up your media a little bit, especially if you're getting a little bit in the headspace of perhaps you're not feeling creatively inspired. You know, change up your materials a little bit. That can often be the little injection of fun that you need, and then you evoke a little bit more curiosity and a little bit more inspiration into your work, and that can just shift you from feeling really lost and a little bit sort of floppy with the art into feeling that buzz of excitement around creating again. That works for me anyway.
I think no matter what kind of art we're making, we should always make time to warm up and play, and limited palette is a really good way to do that. So for example with this one, who was actually called the girl with fish in her hair until I posted some pictures of her on my social media and asked everyone if they could think of a little bit more of an original name. Anyway, I came to a decision and I've decided to go with 27 Irene Art on Instagram, and she suggested Merle's Dream. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but I interpret it as Merle's Dream rather than Merle's Dream. And she sent me that suggestion with best wishes from Switzerland. So thank you very much, 27 Irene Art. Whenever you feel stiff or rusty or a little bit blocked, warm up. Tilt the board, let the paint run, see if you can make a whole landscape or abstract just with gravity, or try the limited palette study like I've done here. Restricting yourself with colour often makes the colours sing louder, and sometimes when I feel really overwhelmed I want to simplify even more than that. So try a monochromatic palette as well, where you pick one colour and water. The results from this can be surprisingly emotional. So let's come back to the plastic bag and the bubble wrap. This is how this is drying. And I absolutely love the plastic bag side, although I find that very interesting as well. That could be good for undersea shells, mermaids, that kind of thing. Make a really great mermaid's tail with that one. This one, botanicals, landscapes, but I would use that in a figurative way as well. I could put a face over that and bring hair and stuff like that. So this is where it's really lovely to have some pages where you've just got something down already. I've got another page here where I've done the same, where I've just been using these pages to sort of, I did some blow drying with the lines and drips, and then I've been using it to kind of sample the opacities of different paints as I'm making other paintings. So for example, you can see the colours match up with these pages that I'm working on as well. And this page here was also created in that way, where I'd had layers of colour underneath, and I put a figurative and a little bit of journaling in as well. So it's just great when you come into your creative time and you're confronted with, you know, blank pages, and it can be really intimidating. We all know this feeling, don't we? So if you've got something down there and you want to, you know, create something on the top, I mean, this could be nice florals, a bit more journaling. I think this one's going to be a face, maybe a mermaid on this side, but I've got something there ready to go, and it gives me a colour mood. So I just wanted to expand on this plastic bag one. So if I just go back to, just daubed a lovely bit of magenta on there, which I rather like. Happy accidents, remember. So let me just pin that down there so we can see. So this was the bubble wrap and the plastic bag printing, and I just wanted to expand a little bit with another layer on this, because I just find this whole texture so beautiful and so interesting. So I've got same said plastic bag, and I'm just going to make it into a printing tool just so I can hold it something like that. And I've mixed up this beautiful magenta, quite a lot of pigment, because I want it to be quite bold and strong. Remember, if you're going over watercolour and you're using a mix that is more watery than what you've got down, you're probably definitely going to get blooms. So if you want blooms, that's great. I talked about that in the last watercolour video, so I won't go into all that now, but just be aware of that as well. So I'm just going to put this down and just print some beautiful florals into the page. I mean, how quick and beautiful is that? And there's no end to this layering process. You can just keep going and keep going. But I just wanted to show how vibrant and beautiful, and all the little layers and nuances and subtleties are coming through. So quick, so easy. And you'd have trouble painting that, so we love that, don't we? I mean, you could use this kind of technique for foliage, bark, rocky textures. I mean, it's just like painting or stamping and printing nature directly into your work. So this is all now fully dry, so I just wanted to do the reveal with you. I just think they're beautiful. It's like foliage, it's like fractals. It is literally just like stamping nature into our book. And I absolutely adore the blooms, the subtleties. And so this will behave differently on different types of paper with different types of paint. So you might have a more granulated or a less granulated. Mine are quite granulated because they're usually Daniel Smith is the one I go to, although I might be changing that up, so watch this space for that, because I'm going to be trying something a little bit different with my art supplies in the future coming weeks, which I'm quite excited about. But isn't that absolutely gorgeous for texture? And it's so quick and easy, and would be really difficult to reproduce this kind of look. You'll have to let me know in the comments your favourite ways of making texture with watercolour, and also what kind of things you use them for. So what kind of paintings you make, whether, you know, are you fully abstract, do you do florals, are you more figurative like me? And let me know in the comments, because I'd love to know what you do. So at the end of the day, I think we've realised that watercolour isn't about perfection, it's about curiosity. It's about allowing the water to teach us, to heal us, to surprise us. Some days it's just messy, and some days it's magical. A bit like life. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: if you stay with it, watercolour becomes not just another medium, it becomes the most helpful creative companion. And to me, that's the greatest hack of all. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a long one. I've really enjoyed making it, and I hope it's given you some ideas and inspiration and encouragement. Leave all your thoughts down below, your hacks. I'm sure you've got lots of them. And I will have a cup of coffee or two, decaf of course, and keep you company down there as well, because I can't wait to hear what you've got to say. And if you've got any pics that you want to share, you can always tag me on Instagram. Yes, I'll put the thing somewhere. So of course, keep your lights shining as bright as you can. I will if you will. Self-care to the max, and go and try and have some watercolour play. Oh yes. So I love you all to bits, and I'll see you really, really soon in the next video. Yes. Bye for now.